To give you an idea just how common these guys are in this sample, in this field here, there are two. One at center screen and one down at about the 7:30, 8 o'clock position. Right there, it's good focus. Ta-da! Alright, in the next room we have a small Geochilon Sulcata, and it has just recently been off food. You're looking at this at about 40 times magnification. And if I can get this thing to switch here, we'll go to the next. Oh, new microscope. There we go. Still not centered, but you can see it there in the upper. If you look very closely off to the left side of that, you can actually see where there's a small operculum. So it's a single operculated, and it almost looks like an Alaria type parasite, but I am not really all that sure, because you just don't see these guys in tortoises. Alright, now to the next magnification. I may have to move this thing a little bit. Yep, have to move it a lot. And focus it. And I've lost it. Where did it go? What the? Oh, it's at the top. That's how big it is. Oh, a little bit more. And right there, you can see the operculum on one end. If you go to the other end, it should be nice and smooth. So that is just not normal in these guys. All right, so wow, another mystery. Cool. Come on, get mad at me. You have to get out of my shell. This is my house. Get out. This is my house. Get out. It's not going to fall for it. There we go. If you were an adult, I would not be able to do this. Come on. Open up. Just get mad. Get a little mad. You can do it. It's like, I'm just not going to fall for it. Come on. Let me know how you feel about me. Here we go, little buddy. I know. I need like 2 more hands. Alright. Just for you to see how long I've been doing this. I got some around his face, but not in his face. Oh, come on, little buddy. I don't want to stress you out too much. I just want to get some dewormer in you. Now, if you think he's going to eat enough at home, I can send you home with some of this stuff to put on his food.
Okay.
Okay?
I can just give him a little tiny piece so we can make sure he eats it.
Yeah, we'll do that then. Okay. This is just one of those species. I never get that lucky with when it comes to this. Matter of fact, ordinarily with an adult, I'd have to sedate this guy to get it out of him. No, didn't die. Oh well, he was so happy with us. He let me know how I felt about me. Sorry, little buddy. Okay, I'm gonna send you home with a syringe. Okay, this stuff's very safe. It's not dangerous at all. Not that I want you drinking it. And then just put like a few drops on the food. Do that. Like 2 drops at most. Okay, and then if he eats half of it, that's cool. The next week we'll do it again and again. Because he is a species that he is, those guys, when they close up, it's really hard. And if it were any other species, especially your omnivorous or carnivorous species, I'd have had that in them in a heartbeat because they'd have been trying to bite it. I have yet to have been bit by one of these guys as often as I have tried. Sounds strange, but it is true. All right, so get your syringe bowl, and you're just going to put a few drops on the food. I'm going to wash this out now. And all right, any questions?
His food. This is what we've been feeding him. This is what the pet store was feeding him.
Okay, it's not bad. These guys, there's a lot of schools of thought on what these guys should eat. Okay, I'm a firm believer that they should be eating something that's got a good calcium phosphorus relationship in it. And my favorite greens when it comes to these guys is collard greens. I think collard greens should always be part of the mix because collard greens have the perfect calcium phosphorus ratio and have twice as much calcium and phosphorus as any growing reptile can use. The bad news is if that's all this particular species eats, then of course they have things like bladder stones that can happen from calcium oxalate crystals. And so I'm not a big fan of making that happen too frequently. And again, if all the greens you could feed them, spinach greens, turnip greens, those are even worse than those. So and that's got spinach in it. I think I saw spinach in there. Anyway, so that's, they're really famous for making those kind of crystals. And when I had them before, I basically had just raised them on romaine lettuce as about 80%, 60% of their diet. Collard greens were about 20% of their diet. And then basically I just sprinkled calcium and phosphorus on top of it and would sometimes throw in things like a little bit of carrots and stuff like that. Fruits, vegetables, only use those as a treat. Okay, in other words, if you're sitting there and you want to bond with him and he's out running around, reaching your hand in there with a small slice of strawberry, although for him a whole slice of strawberry is a whole meal, okay, but if you think about it, if you do that once or twice a week, it's not going to be as dangerous for him. Think of the food that he eats today, it's not going to be pooped for about a week. Okay, so whatever you sit inside of him sits in there for a long time, and it's the fiber that we feed them that feeds the bacteria. And the bacteria's life cycle inside the intestine is what makes the protein that actually makes the animal. I mean, how does a horse get to be 1,000 pounds? When you think about it, I mean, if all they eat is grass, there is no protein source. What do horses eat cows in the process to get their protein? It doesn't work that way. So when you're looking at this guy, what I want you to understand is you're actually looking at a small scaled and shelled horse. Okay, so as long as you're feeding him the best greens, then the bacteria inside of him will actually become that protein source and make him this humongous tortoise that we will see in the next 5 or more years. And these guys get humongous.
Okay, this sort of thing, should we be giving him this? And I did get one of those.
Okay.
We haven't had any success getting him to eat this anyway, but.
Well, I mean, that's kind of large for him. As he gets larger later on, those might not be such a bad idea. And again, that's a big piece of pelleted rabbit food. Actually, a bit more complicated than that, but you get the idea. They put grasses and natural foods for him in a blender, and mix it all up, put it out on an extruder, and then suddenly cut it into the pellets that you're at. So right now, unless you were to water that down, he could not chew on one of those.
Okay.
These things are not bad at all. As a matter of fact, it'd be really good for his beak. So I think this would not be a bad idea.
Okay. And the moss is safe, right?
Because one of the number one infections that I see in reptiles is usually secondary to rotting vegetation of some type or other. And moss basically is swampy grass, swamp grass when you think about it. So basically it floats atop of peat moss bogs, and that could be an issue. So I usually recommend when it comes to these guys to actually use something like the reptile carpet. Okay, get a few different types of carpet and put it in the cage. And what that'll do is when one gets dirty, you'll actually go in and then switch it to another one. Okay, I usually recommend going to Lowe's or Home Depot and picking up AstroTurf.
Oh.
Get a few yards of AstroTurf. If this is his cage at home, is this okay?
Yes.
Okay, so if he has a larger cage, Oh, okay. So you could basically cut a template at the bottom of that cage, okay, with the AstroTurf and set that in there. When that one gets dirty, too many piles of poop just so unsightly, you don't want to see it, you take that one out, put a fresh one in, hang it. We used to hang mine over the fence, spray it with some bleach, clean it, you know, spray it with a hose, let Mother Nature rinse it for the next week or two till the next one was ready for that one. It's a funny story. I had a neighbor that lived in back of my dad's house. And it was really funny. I went to go visit her, and I didn't realize how bad her eyesight was. But she asked how we did, you know, got our yard so green over the fence. Turns out what she was seeing was reptile carpets hung over the fence, and she thought that was shrubbery, you know, from a distance, you know, like about 100 yards away. And I'm looking at her like she was crazy, and then I realized as I looked back that, oh my God, from here it does look like we've actually put in a shrubbery, and it must have looked like that like overnight. Within a matter of weeks, we now had this nice, perfectly flat top shrubbery up there, you know. Anyway, and it was basically just a number of carpets that I'd had out there for caging the reptiles, and I'd use that for snakes and turtles and all kinds of stuff. All right, questions? No, none. Nothing. Can't think of anything.
So we don't need mulch at all. Just the little carpet.
The carpet will be fine.
Okay.
That, what's it called, that wood thingies?
Yes.
Yes, could we crunch those up like
You could, or you could put a few drops of water on them, and they would just basically melt in front of you.
Okay.
That way, you would make sure you got some water at the same time. That's one way of doing it. When these guys get bigger, one of my favorite things I used to do when I had them, I had several sulcatas at one point in time. I had an 8 pounder. Anyway, what I used to do was take a watermelon, and I would go out there and put a small crack in it, and the little ones would go in there and start eating at the holes, you know, because they had mostly grass outside, but occasionally you're going to get one, you know, when watermelons were cheap, I'd go get it, and the little ones would start chewing, and you see the big ones at the periphery waiting for a big enough hole to go in there, and it was always cool. As soon as that big guy saw that hole get just big enough where he could stick his head and his feet into it, he would like go and move the little guys aside, like, hold on, it's my turn. He would stick his head in and rip it in half, and then it was a tortoise party. It was the coolest thing ever. So these guys have got great personalities. Okay. Anyway, he's pretty much bendy worm for now. Okay. So this time next week, you give him a few more drops on his food, and I'd like to recheck his stool in 2 weeks.
Okay.
Okay. So you bring me the whole tortoise and some poop. We don't have really a gram scale here yet, but next week when I see him again, I'll try to have one available. Then we'll know where he's at. Okay. Any questions?
No.
No. Okay.
Thank
Very cool.
you.
You're welcome.